Hey everyone, welcome. And it is my esteemed pleasure to bring a man to you today who was in partnership with me in writing a really cool book. And this is one of several books I've had the privilege of co-authoring. And this one was with Joe Cordemonch, my buddy, a former Navy veteran, police officer, and a man with a hell of a lot of wisdom. And I know that a lot of you out there are having some challenges with modern times, the pace of modern times, the culture shifting constantly. One week you're okay, the next week you're a villain. We don't know where we stand anymore. And at the end of the day, resilience is actually the key because if our resilience bank account has enough money in it, we're not worried about going into overdraft protection or bankruptcy. And that means that any adversity that comes our way, we can look at that adversity right in the eye and say, I got this. I definitely got this. That doesn't mean you're going to be happy and rainbows and unicorns and butterflies and pots of gold. It doesn't mean that. But it does mean you can get through the challenges with a lot of ease and grace. And I can tell you this gentleman, he has had a lot of life challenges and he navigates them with incredible ease and grace. And it was a joy for us to work on that book together. Joe, welcome.
Thank you, Roger. I feel the same. Not only did we work together on the book, but we were the senior mentors for a program that did outreach to first responders. And I love your style, and I'm glad to be here today to talk with you.
Yeah. When you think about resilience, Joe, and you think about this book, give me your impression of how the book really can be helpful for someone. Because we did a very unique format based on resiliency, but also in a way that allows people to get a daily dose. Tell them a little bit about your impressions of our book and what you think of it.
Well, before we did the book, which is deemed a rational devotional for first responders, um, I looked at and I'm a Christian, I'm a devout Christian, and I looked at a lot of devotionals. And I got to tell you, they were all garbage. The ones designed for first responders were so superficial and they didn't really address some of the stresses that people have in their life, first responder or not. And so, as you said, as both a veteran of the Navy, where I did kind of gray area, black area operations in intelligence for 3 years on subs, and then as a law enforcement officer a very long time ago, I know how stress can impact you. So when we decided to do the devotional, we kind of divvied it up, and without even really going into great detail with each other, we said, okay, I'll write half, you write half, and then we'll mingle the chapters every other day. You'll get one or the other of us. So it turned out you did all the really spiritual parts, and I did all the pragmatic stuff for how to deal with stress. And we based it on the navigating adversity principles that Dr. Renee Thornton had come up with when we were both instructors in the program. And I think it turned out to be almost magical because everybody I know that's read the book or listened to the audiobook, which I'll tell you more about in a minute, but anybody that's had exposure to the material has said, wow, that really concretely helps me. And I've never been a cop or a firefighter or an army guy or whatever they haven't been. It still has appealed to them and applies to their day-to-day living because we give very practical advice on both a spiritual and a mental health level. Excuse me, even though neither one of us is a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but we touch deep at, hey, you may be screwed up and you might need some professional help, but here's the easy way to go about it and accept that comfort from the learning of others.
Exactly right. And this idea of a devotional, it's really just a daily dose of inspiration based on the 8 pillars that make up complete resilience in the body, mind, and spirit. And as it turned out, Joe did 7 of the 8 pillars. Now, before you think I was dodging some work, I took on the spiritual side because I've noticed that we are missing that aspect of being complete as humans. We've kind of detached a little bit from our spiritual side. And it doesn't matter whether you align with a particular belief, a religion, a doctrine. It makes no difference at all because what we're actually talking about fits everyone, including someone who might be an agnostic or even atheist. And the reason for that is what we are discussing when we talk about spiritual side of the fence is something beyond the self. So,
Yes.
for example, Joe might be a Christian, another person might be a Buddhist, somebody else might believe in the Muslim religion. It makes no difference. They have something that is outside of themselves, and that's organized, and they belong to that. But even an atheist who, let's say they're a first responder, just to use the example, and they go to work every day because they believe in the tenets of the United States Constitution. That becomes the belief system they are working for, the inspiration in their life that
Yes.
allows them to have something beyond the self. And where we tend to get in trouble is when we don't have an anchor for the really hard day, where life overwhelms us. Because if we don't have something outside of ourselves to hang our hat on, to go to every day for inspiration, well, it's all on us. And what happens when you are low on resilience, when you are really deep in the weeds?
You get
Yeah, you've got a
crushed.
problem. You're going to get crushed. That's a great word. And so Joe and I wrote this book so that every other day you're going to receive something oriented to that spirit side of the fence. And then on the other days, you're getting one of the seven pillars. But it's
Right.
more than that. We're not just giving you a little platitude. The thing I really love about this book is there are thought-provoking questions every single day for you to take into a bit of reflection. Now, when we say meditation, the M word, people get a little flipped out. Does that mean I have to go to the Himalayas, sit in a cave, stare at a candle flame while a guru rubs patchouli oil on my feet? No, that's
That
not
sounds
what we're
kind of
talking
good,
about.
actually.
Although it sounds pretty good.
It does, yeah.
What we're actually talking about is you get a question in the daily devotional that you read, and it takes you maybe 2 minutes to read it. Maybe two
Yeah.
minutes. It's a single page in the book. And then you have the questions, and you can sit and close your eyes and just take a few breaths and say, what would I think about that question? How would that impact my life? And if I were to make a change, what might that change be? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Let me tell you how incredible it is to set your day like that, because you can then go through the day with that as a foundation. And when you get to the end of the day, last thing before bed, you could read that devotional again and say, did I orient to that today? Could I have done something differently? What am I really proud of that because of that inspiration, I was able to pay forward into society? And that's what I love, Joe, the versatility of it all.
I do too. And so the analogy I would give, excuse me, is it's very similar to leaving port on a mission in the Navy. So you start the day with the briefing. You talk about what your objectives are going to be. You go to the chart, show where the shoal waters are, where you don't want to drive your submarine, and talk about what we're going to do when the hatch closes. And then at the end of the day, it's like the end of the mission. You can go right back to the mission orders and see if you accomplished those goals. You're going to know if you ran aground during the day. But by going back to it at the end of each day, and you're right, they are all very short in comparison to some devotionals. They're perfectly lengthened, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, you can go back and kind of tick off the boxes in what you read and say, hey, I did pretty well. That's why I feel so good. Or conversely, you could say, I really feel dragged out and beaten today. Let's see what I did or didn't do right. And the odds are pretty good you missed something positive that was there at the beginning of the day with all the negativity that surrounds you in the world. And I think that's an especially hard thing for people basically age 20 to 40 because they haven't. I mean, I got a few life experiences, as do you, Roger. So you learn over time what you can do and can't do by yourself. And if you count on that higher entity, whether it's the Constitution, I mean, heck, we had a rabbi write our forward. So you can count on that strength that comes from the spiritual side. And then on the other days, I talk about, maybe not spending $92,000 on a new pickup truck would be wise for a rookie cop. Maybe you should get an old beater and drive it so you have some money in the bank. If you just do the pragmatic things we talk about, I think you're going to feel better at the end of the day. I know I did when I was reading it, because I did a lot of the editing. I'm an author by trade, so to speak. And then when I recorded the audiobook, and what I love about the audiobook is if you want to meditate, you put your headphones on, you hit go, and you can sit there for 3 minutes or 10 minutes and absorb a couple of days. And we purposely didn't put dates on it. So it's day one. When you buy the book, you can sit down and start on day one, whether it's July 30th or January 1st, and just get going on improving your life. And I think it does improve people's lives.
I love that reflection of, just taking a moment to set the day and end the day like a mission, right? And when we
Yes,
look at first responder communities, when we look at military communities, they run off of efficiency and review, constant revision, right? Maybe
always.
it's not a bad way to conduct your own personal life, right? Is to say, all right, here's my mission for the day. Let's get to the end of the day. Let's review. And what are we going to do differently? Hey, I really like that. I would like to improve here. And as Joe said, this is the hard copy, hardback copy. We got paperback copies. We've got the audio book, and you can get it as an ebook. Whatever
Yep.
form floats your boat, you got a whole year worth of devotionals in here. And like Joe said, you can use it any way you want. You could read seven of them if you wanted to start a whole week like that. You could do one a day, up to you completely. But one of the things that I've gotten as feedback is a lot of people in first response communities who got this particular book, they just keep it in their duty bag and they actually keep
Yep.
it with them. So when they're out and they have a moment, they'll crack that thing open and sometimes randomly read a page just to get their head back in the game, right? Because
Yep.
we're all going through challenges. The cool
Yeah, it's a
part about
micro
this,
calibration.
I love that word. Yeah, recalibrating ourselves throughout the day. Well, as you know, if you've listened to this channel at any length at all, you know that's what we're talking about. It's constant recalibration to bring our compass right back to center so we can
Yes.
walk that middle way, not getting hijacked to either side. We're letting our mud settle. We're walking the middle way. And we need constant reminders to do that. That's what this book
Yes.
is for.
Plus, it's encouraging. I mean, there are a lot of people in this world who wake up every morning feeling like hell. They literally don't want to get out of bed. They have to force themselves to go shave or take a shower, eat some breakfast, and get going. A lot of people get up, get a drinkable yogurt, and stagger out the door to go to work. If you take the 3 minutes, and I think that's the longest audiobook chapter was 3 minutes, and calibrate your day, know what your goals are each and every day, you start out with that little bit of an endorphin rush of, hey, I got some good challenges here. I got some things that can make me feel better and do a better job, whether you're a computer programmer or you're laying asphalt on the county roads. Every job's got challenges, every job's got good and bad points to it. But man, if you can correct your course as every day starts and then review it at the end of the day, instead of swinging wildly from side to side like people do emotionally and spiritually, now you're maybe doing this over the course of a month or so, reading the book. And the next thing you realize, it's like, hey, I had 4 really awesome days in a row. And it's because I've got goals and I'm doing something to maintain my integrity and spiritual connectivity to it.
Yeah, that integrity piece is key. And, we got to put the effort in. The world isn't going to just
Yes.
do it for us. And it's awful confusing right now. And there's a whole lot of division. One of the things I really enjoy about the book, too, is you get your daily devotional, and at the bottom, there's a summary, basically like a mantra or a saying or a conclusion that's 1 to 2 sentences, very short that highlights, captures exactly what's been gone through on the devotional itself. And what's kind of neat about that is you can kind of plant that into your mind and think about that throughout the day. And it serves as another anchor. We're really big on getting these anchors going because life comes at us just like that. It shifts
Yes.
on a dime. And what are you going to do when it shifts on a dime? Viktor Frankl said in Man's Search for Meaning that if we can create a gap between the stimulus and our response, that gap allows us to respond thoughtfully, to deal with what's right in front of us. But if we don't have that gap, we're reactive. And when we are in our reactive mind, we become more susceptible to anger, fear, and sadness. And every single one of those things derails our entire day. That could derail days. But imagine
Months.
if you have this anchor and all of a sudden life comes at you, you step back, you say, okay, let me pause, let me remember what I'm oriented to today. All right, I got this. And just that little tick of a separation gives you the ability to come in and navigate that adversity with a whole lot more ease and grace. So, this is the brilliance of the book. It's available in a number of formats. And yes, we wrote it for the first responder community because, frankly, they've really been struggling. We wrote it for the veteran community who comes back from theater, and my goodness, they're like Joe was saying, 25 to 40 years old. They've been in a different place in the world, seen some things that the rest of us don't get to see. It's pretty hard to relate to regular life when you come back. What is going to anchor you? What's going to help you? So we wrote it to that community, but the truth is, and the feedback we've gotten is, this is for everyone. And
Absolutely.
that was a high praise indeed.
No, that's really true. Excuse me. So, pardon me, I'm losing my voice a little here. I won't use any names, mom, but my mom generally does not enjoy what I write. And it's the curse of any creative. Mom might not like it. Thank God my sister does. But at any rate, my mom, I gave her a copy of this and I highlighted some things because she was going through some struggles. She had a big transition in life and moving into an assisted living facility. So she's in her 80s. And she was reading through the book and she said, "This really makes good sense. I feel better just thinking about this." And I thought, wow, mom, you actually like something I wrote? But she's never been a cop or a first responder. She was a salesperson and a housewife before that. And so I know that there's something in there for everyone at any point in their life. So people struggle all throughout their lives. They may not admit it to themselves. They may just kick the can down the road and turn a blind eye. Man, I got to tell you, my toes were sore from kicking cans. And when I really opened my eyes and started to focus a number of decades ago about how I was going to deal with adversity, I felt so much better. And without ever having gone through the course we taught, I started doing the 8 pillars without even realizing that they were the foundation of a successful life. Um, and so when we were first teaching the course together, I was looking, I was like, oh, I can address that. I know that totally well. And some of the stuff that we talk about in the daily devotional um, is not part of any other devotional anywhere. I'll give you a really good example. Economic common sense, the pillar of um, having good sense in how you handle your finances and making sure that you have care for those around you as well. Because if you're stressed out about money, I guarantee you nothing's going to fix you other than more money. And that's how most people look at it. But if you think, well, I could cut back here or I could economize there, and maybe I don't need to go to Longhorn for a steak dinner 4 times a week. Maybe I could bring a sandwich to work. And all of a sudden, your bank account's up by 20 grand at the end of the year because you aren't blowing it on fast food, brand new rims for the car, and all the other goofy stuff we all waste money on as younger people, especially. Now you can look at adversity and go, I can handle that big car bill. Ooh, the refrigerator died. Let's boogie on over to the big box store and get a new one. because you have the spare money. And we talk about those kinds of very practical applications in the devotional. And I think that's where you and I, Roger, really did a good service for people, because we brought them practical things they can do each and every day to help secure those 8 pillars and feel better about themselves and deal with adversity without that horrible crushing anxiety you get when you're down to your last $10 in 7 days until payday. I've been there.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we've all been there at some point, and some of you may be there right now. The truth is, you've gotten to this point. You've already handled lots of adversity in your life if you're a human. That's just true. Some of us have a little more than others. And if you choose a crazy career in the military or first response, you're going to get a lot more challenges in that regard. But at the end of the day, we've all made it to a certain point, which tells me, yeah, we've got some wisdom now. And the question is, will we get caught in the story of the victim where, yes, I went through this and now it defines me, versus, no, I went through this and it up-leveled me? Because there's this
Yes,
idea that resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity. Yes, it is in part that, but it's not the most important part. The most important part is not only do we bounce back, but we learn, we grow, we become up leveled. And let me tell you when you're really resilient. You'll know that you're really resilient when the next adversity pops into your life and you say, good, bring it. I got this.
exactly. So you and I both do martial arts, and I've been doing Krav Maga for about 2 years now, and I'd done judo years ago and other combative stuff along the way. And you're familiar with the concept of microfractures, where you purposely hit things hard and create little teeny tiny breaks in certain bones that you use for striking or deflecting strikes. And over time, those little microfractures heal into scar tissue of the bone, and they're so much stronger than the original bone that as you go along and you take more hits, you become stronger and you're ready for the next hit. So eventually, somebody throwing that amazing kick right at your head, you can block them with your forearm, not break your arm, and walk away from the thing stronger than you went into it. And I think that's exactly what we do in this book. We're building up those microfractures for
Yeah, and it really, I'm going to speak to the men out there for just a minute. Here's the thing, there's a lot of pushback on the masculine. That pushback could be everything from perspectives where we've dominated and driven the world into the ground to it's toxic, all of that vitriol. And so it's hard to show up sometimes in our full power because of the way others might judge that. But imagine showing up in your full power, not from a victim standpoint, not from because I'm going to get even with somebody or prove this or that, but because you're in the victor mindset. In other
you.
words, you're using a word that Joe used, or I'm going to use a word that Joe used earlier, I really like. You're in integrity. And it's because your foundation is so strong. You've taken the time to build your resilience. And it is exactly as Joe said, it is like muscles that need to be worked out. And
Yes.
some of us, our muscles are weak and atrophied. Well, that doesn't mean anything other than you just got to hit the resilience gym and build it up. Well, how do you do that? Well, imagine in a few minutes a day, reading this book, getting inspiration, pondering the questions. That's the key, really pondering the questions. Imagine who you'd be at the end of a year in terms of your resilience. I absolutely, wholeheartedly, and unequivocally can guarantee you're not going to be the same person. You're going to
No.
have a whole new set of muscles on the body, some new armor, and some ways to go. Yeah, I got this. Imagine that level of confidence where it's like, oh God, here comes the next text from so and so. I already know it's just going to be a shit show. Jesus, what am I going to? As opposed to, okay, what's going on? I got this. Like, just imagine the positions differing so dramatically, and it'll happen in a very short window of time because you're exercising those muscles, and that's the key to it.
Part of it is you don't hear the ping of your phone and I turn all that crap off on my phone. I do not need the endorphin rush from the pinging. But when when the text message pops up, some people's first response is to hit the power button, turn the thing off, and go, "Oh, God, that's from Roger. I can't do that." They don't even know what it is. They run away from it. Whereas I go right to it, I look at it, and I deal with it almost universally within 10 seconds because I'm ready mentally to face whatever the challenge is. Now, sometimes it's something I'm not ready for. I'll give you an example. I found out a friend of mine died last week when somebody sent out a Facebook message. You know what? That's not how I want to find out a friend died. But I read it. I was sad for about a minute and a half. And then I thought, wow, she was pretty amazing. I hope she's in heaven. I hope it all goes well. I'm glad I knew her. And so that's the turn that you can make in your life when you're ready for things because you embrace everything as an opportunity. Everything's a challenge you want to overcome. And it's not that you're cold hearted or your friend died and you don't care past a minute and a half. It's that I've accepted the fact that there's going to be death and sickness in the world. Maybe me, maybe some people I know. But the reality of it is, I'm ready for it, whatever comes.
That's it. That's it exactly. What a beautiful way to sum up just a little dance around this piece of work that you and I have done. It's one of the things that I'm most proud of in my professional career, simply
Yeah.
because it consolidated so much of our beliefs into a single, very usable document. And we don't talk over your head, we talk to you. This is not about us coming down from on high. That's not how Joe and I are. You were the kind
No,
of guys you'd want to hang out with and have a beer and just talk shit. So, we brought you some hard-won life wisdom between the two of us. We've seen a few things, and we've also seen how our brothers and sisters are suffering. And we recognize that there are ways to begin to minimize that, to begin to empower others to take a step in the right direction to their own very robust resilience. And so, you can find this book on Amazon. You can look up Joe or myself. There'll be a link down below for you, along with the other books that are available. All of them are something that can really help you put some money back into that resilience bank account. And that's our goal. We're both very also open-hearted, service-oriented guys. And
yes.
so we really like to help people. That's our thing. That's what juices us up at the end of the day. Joe, I'm going to give you the last word. If you could give anybody a little bit of advice here about the book or any other thing, what you got, man?
I'm going to read you two chapter endings. I opened the book quite literally at random to any page. And I'll read you one of my endings and one of Roger's. So each page contains 1 day's worth of material. It starts out with thoughts to ponder. And then we talk about the reality of the situation. And then the last thing is the hope. And of all we wrote in this book, that's my favorite thing is we called it the hope. It's what you can do for the day. So it's the last paragraph in every page. So one day I say, see if one of your anchors or perhaps someone from your church is interested in being your accountability partner in your new pursuit. Whether it's road miles completed or mastering some part of an academic class, having a cheerleader who tracks you and encourages you is a big plus in your self improvement plan. The next day, the hope is I will never let doubt paralyze me. I will cultivate my connection to my higher power with every fiber of my being and realize the miracles this brings to my life. And I love it. We distill reality into something positive, give you goals, and then give you some hope about how you can accomplish those things and encourage you. And I'm very proud of this book. I'm proud to be your friend, Roger, and I'm thrilled this is out there to help people.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. That is a two-way street for sure. And I really love how you sum that up because how much other things out there are we exposed to that provide a dose of hope and positivity these days?
Not
To me,
much.
that's worth its weight in gold, friend. So, Joe, thank you so much for being my partner in this endeavor.
You're welcome.
Thanks very much for being the awesome human that you are because you really live and walk the truth of it. And yeah, I'm
Thanks.
just in deep appreciation for the work that we did.
I'm very proud of it too, Roger.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
I was going to throw an emoji up there. uh,
A flaming skull emoji.